Watch exclusively available on Action Network's YouTube channel. Your host today, Brendan Glasheen, joined by two of our very best baseball writers at Action Network, Anthony Dabbundo, Sean Zerillo. Huge MLB slate on this Thursday, including a bunch of afternoon games. There's already a game in progress, Milwaukee and Pittsburgh, but still plenty to get to as it pertains to best bets, player props, and also picks for tonight's great NL East battle between the Braves and the Mets. That's from Citi Field. As always, being on YouTube, we have the chat available. Get involved on the YouTube chat, and we'll get to as many as possible. Also, using the chat, before we get started on picks, we have a contest for all of you watching. Everyone likes contests. In the chat, simply choose one player today that will homer, and the first person to correctly pick a dinger. Let me say that again. First person to correctly pick a dinger. So that's kind of a loaded way of putting it, but you'll win $50 courtesy of Action Network. Only one guess per person, so please do not spam the chat. When we see a name, we will take it down and log it in the important section of all that kind of good stuff. So we'll remind you again if you forget, but yeah, get involved. Drop in some names. So once you folks start doing that, please pay attention as well, because Sean Zerillo is going to start us off with best bets for tonight.
Yeah, got to monitor the lineups on this one because you may get more value if Shohei Ohtani is not in the lineup. Removed last night with forearm soreness in a game where he pitched and hit. Forearm soreness can be concerning because it usually means signs of Tommy John could be coming up in the future. So I hope Ohtani is okay, but I also hope that he's not in the lineup today for the Angels. Even if he is, though, I like the Athletics here on the money line. Both halves, first five, and full game. I would bet them down to -110 and +100 respectively. Projected them closer to -120 and -110 in each half. Paul Blackburn, the much better pitcher than Jansen Junk. Blackburn's expected ERA this year, 3.75. Jansen's FIP projections, about 4.6 to 5.4. So almost a full run difference between these two pitchers. As I said, if Ohtani's in the lineup, I still like those bets at -110 and +100 respectively, first five in full game, but you will find more value if he's not in the lineup. It is a 4 o'clock start. Angels have not announced their lineup. Oakland has. One more note, the Angels are 17-37. Since the start of June, they have Luis Rengifo hitting third in their lineup. Their lineup is pitiful. They can't drive any runners in. They have a really tough time scoring, and they have trouble keeping you off the board unless Ohtani's pitching. So playing at a 50-win full season pace since the start of June, if you go back to mid-May, it's probably even worse. I think the Angels are in complete free fall right now. Don't see any reason why the A's shouldn't be favored here.
Okay, we've been talking about the Angels for a while on the podcast and also on this show. They are falling apart and fast. Anthony Dabbundo, what's up, pal? What do you got for us today? Best bet.
You know, Luis Rengifo catching strays from Zerillo there. 108 OPS plus for Luis. I think he might be turning the corner. With that being said, I do generally agree with Sean. I also don't hate a look to the F5 under there. Jansen Junk, not a great pitcher, but does have good stuff. Should be able to get through the lineup, maybe a time and a half. A's lineup also putrid. That being said, I'm going with the Guardians on the money line at +160 or better. There are +165s out there. There are also +160s. This came down a little bit, opened to +170, 172s last night. It's Justin Verlander against Zach Plesac. We were just talking off air about Verlander and how he's now the American League Cy Young favorite. And he's been very impressive, 1.81 ERA. But I feel like we've been saying this all year, and it hasn't really come to fruition. At some point it will. His BABIP is 30 points lower than his career average, and his strikeout rate is down 10% from 2 years ago when he was one of the best pitchers in all of baseball. He's still good, but you can even look at stuff like his stuff plus, which is down to 101. That's just above league average. Typically, he was sitting, 110 in years past. So we've seen his stuff has dropped off. His Ks have dropped off. He's allowing more balls in play, and teams are not really punishing that, be it via variance or luck. And the Guardians put a lot of balls in play themselves. So I think they're really going to make it difficult on Verlander for strikeout reasons. And Zach Plesac's not good. I'm not going to make the case that he's good, but I'll make the case that he's improving. His last 400 pitches, stuff plus up 4 points, solidly above average, actually better stuff than Verlander. And he does not surrender a lot of walks, which is another plus for him going against a Houston lineup that is pretty patient and does not strike out a lot, does not chase. Well, Plesac can kind of nibble around the end of the zone and show his good command. Then maybe he can get some outs here. At +160 at home, I'm going to take the Guards. Guards also an elite bullpen, top 6 in xFIP. later in the game too to keep it close. So I like the Guards.
Fascinated by that series. Also, the Twins being a game ahead of the Guardians. They are playing the Blue Jays at home. And also, Justin Verlander is currently your favorite to win AL Cy Young at plus 145. So I'm curious to see if indeed that comes true, Guardians money line, how that could affect the odds when it comes to Cease and also McClanahan, the guys that follow behind. Okay, time to figure out if we're going to fade the public today. According to the Action Network app, if you don't have it, we strongly encourage it. If you buy one of the pro accounts, you can find out where all the money's coming in. That's one of many features, and the public loves the Dodgers over the Giants. 85% of the bets for this one. And by the way, the Dodgers are in San Francisco. It's a road game. 85% of the bets, 83% of the cash riding with Clayton Kershaw and the Dodgers. Over his last 10 starts, the Dodgers are 4-6. They're not rolling with Kershaw out there, and he's been roughed up a tad the last couple starts, mixed in that last 10 stretch, including some games at Coors Field. So to be fair, those are some things to consider. But Zerillo, I'm a little surprised. The public really is on Kershaw today. What's your angle on this one?
Yeah, I'm taking the Giants here. They do rank much better against lefties than they do against righties. Obviously traded Darren Ruff, but got JD Davis back, and those guys have pretty comparable career numbers, especially against lefties. Projected the Giants at plus 158. I would bet them down to plus 175 or better. I think there's still some plus 190s out there. I do also like the first 5 under 4.5, though. You could bet that all the way up to minus 130. Projected that total closer to 3.8. As I said, the Giants are better against lefties than they are against righties. There's a 13% difference there in their projections. The Dodgers are the number 1 offense against right-handed pitching, but there's only a 3% gap between their lineup versus righties as opposed to lefties. So the Giants definitely getting the better of the handedness splits here against the left-handed starter. I think the Dodgers are just slightly overvalued considering they've dominated the Giants of late as well. Looking at the box score, I can make the argument that the Giants should have won each of the past 2 games against them. So definitely been a little bit unlucky, not driving in runners when they get opportunities, left the bases loaded, stranded twice last night. I believe 1 with no outs, 1 with 1 out. So the Giants are playing fine. They just haven't necessarily strung the luck together well. Giants on the money line seems like a good value bet tonight.
Yeah, Kershaw did not last 5 innings. In the last start he made against San Fran on July 24th, allowed 4 runs, allowed a home run as well. And then when he faced them in June, went just 4 innings, 71 pitches. That was his second start back from, or his first start back rather, from missing a month. So that's something to keep in mind too. Dabbundo, are you fading the public today, taking the Giants or what?
I'm not, running to the window to bet the Giants, but you can clearly see that the line is inflated. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact the Dodgers have now won 6 straight in this series. They won a 4-game series, a sweep coming out of the All-Star break just last week. And now they've won 2 straight here, going for the sweep again. From a betting perspective, so I do think the Dodgers are quite overvalued, although I'm starting to be a little bit skeptical of these Giants numbers because of how many injuries they've had and how much their depth is being tested. And you're looking at the lineup today, VR hitting 6th, Wins 7th, Johnson 8th, Machado 9th. I mean, it is a really bad Giants lineup that's out there tonight. Yerman Mercedes hitting 4th. Not particularly a believer in him either. So there's just a lot of holes in this lineup. And so I would look toward the under 4.5 first 5 innings. It has come down a little bit, but you can still find a minus 125 at MGM. That would be my play if I had to play it here.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. That's a 3:45 Eastern start, and the Dodgers, they don't play a ton of and the Giants, they don't play a ton of day games because they're all the way out west. But 3:45 today, p.m. Eastern time. All right. We see your questions in the chat. There was one about a player prop, so we'll get to that. But once we do that, we will get the picks first from Dabbundo and Zerillo. Then we'll go to the questions. We look at the Action Network Pro model, and the model's highest rated prop on the board, for those of you wondering, Brandon Woodruff, under 7.5 strikeouts. The Pro model has him only getting 5.9. So that's the kind of data you can get if you have a Pro account. That's a way to transition to Sean Zerillo. If you had to go to a prop today, what catches your eye?
Paolo Espino of the Nationals, over 3.5 strikeouts, minus 105, still at DraftKings. Our Action Labs tool projected this closer to 4.5. If you look at Espino's strikeout rate on the year, his total batters faced, you would project him right at 3.5 strikeouts. Action Labs, I said, has him at 4.5. He has an 18% strikeout rate this season. The Phillies, though, rank in the bottom half of the league against right-handed pitching in terms of strikeout rate, the 6th worst mark over the past 30 days, 25% on the season. I believe they're closer to the 12th worst mark, so just below league average. They are in the upper half of the league against lefties, so they do hit lefties better than they do righties in terms of avoiding the strikeout. But Espino faced an average of 19 batters a game this season. As said, projecting him with his K rate, 19 batters a game, you get to 3.5 strikeouts. I would bump it higher, closer to 4 with the Phillies offense factored in. So I would make this closer to 4. Action Labs has it at 4.5. It's a 9 out of 10 rated prop. I think it's a solid spot. And I also like the Nationals on the money line in both halves as well.
Love it. Good stuff. Again, we see your questions in the chat, so we'll get to your player prop questions or any other questions you have here. Before we do so, let's go to Anthony Dabbundo. And you're going to go to a total basis prop.
Yeah, I agree with him on the Espino over. Espino actually above average stuff, which is surprising when you look at his velocity on his fastball, but does generally, project well. I know we've bet him in the past on this show and cash before. I do like his matchup with the Phillies tonight at the bank. Also might even get Brandon Marsh in the lineup, which could help the strikeouts as well. My pick, though, is Big Vin. Italian breakfast, they call him. Vinny Pasquantino, the rookie for the Royals. Amongst qualified hitters with at least 50 balls in play, there is not one hitter in baseball that has a bigger difference between their expected weighted on base average and their actual. Vinny has hit the ball really hard. His hard hit rate is over 50%. His strikeout rate is below 17%. He has excellent plate discipline, and he gets a matchup with Nick Pivetta tonight for likely 2 of his at-bats. A right-hander who has allowed some of the hardest contact in all of baseball this season, and it has been regressing hard recently. So I love Pasquantino over 1.5 bases at plus 135.
Did you say Vinny breakfast?
Italian breakfast.
Italian breakfast. Okay. Love it. That's good.
Yes, that's one of his nicknames.
Great. And it's fitting for an afternoon start, right? You get your Italian breakfast and then you go out and have yourself a day. Okay, there is a question in the chat as it pertains to player props, so we'll do it now. Slim asks, how do we feel about Jeffrey Springs over 5.5 strikeouts? I got his game logs pulled up here. He's only hit this over in 2 of his last 7, but in 4 of those, he's had at least 5. Do either of you have a glaring take or a whopping take on Jeffrey Springs? Anthony, it sounds like you have something to say.
I just hate the Rays in these situations, and they're so different from how they manage their starting pitching from every other team in the league, really. And that still remains to be the case. And so it's so hard to pin down usage numbers on these Tampa guys, especially people like Springs or Raz, or even, when they use openers and stuff. It is hard. And so you just don't know how many hitters you're going to get. Detroit does project a little bit better against left-handed pitching than right-handed pitching as well. So I would not bet the over here, but I could see it, but again, you need him to go 5 innings probably to get that number, and you just don't know if you're going to get that usage, even if the Tigers do strike out at a good rate.
Yeah, I'd rather bet a juiced 4.5 as opposed to a 5.5. Springs in our Action Labs tool, our projections love him. They have him at 7.9, but you notice in his game logs, he's facing fewer and fewer batters in each of his starts. They were letting him go 6 innings, facing 25 batters. It's come back closer to 2 times through the lineup, and then he's coming out. So maybe the Rays have noticed something with his splits in terms of 3rd time through the order. I don't love it from a perspective of pitcher usage. As Anthony said, it's very difficult to project how the Rays are going to use their starter on every game and day. But one other thing Anthony mentioned, Detroit is bottom 5 in strikeout rate against right-handed pitching, so they really struggle against righties, but they're much closer to league average against lefties. So I would much rather play that juiced 4.5 as opposed to like a plus money 5.5, for instance. Our projections love it, but diving deeper into the analysis, pitcher usage, how the Rays do against lefties, or how the Tigers do against lefties, do not like it as much.
Little breaking news. Shohei Ohtani is in the lineup for the Angels today against the A's. Zerillo, is there anything you'd like to mention? I know your best bet today was Oakland, first 5 in full game. Anything you'd like to add or any adjustment there?
No, it was similar to like a situation on trade deadline day where I projected the Cubs without Wilson Contreras and Ian Happ and still showed value without them in the lineup. So I bet the Cubs. Here, I projected Ohtani in the lineup, knowing there was a chance he could be out, and still showed value on the other side with the A's. So I will place those bets knowing there's a chance my bet is an even better value by the time the game starts. But regardless with Ohtani in the lineup or not, I like the A's to minus 110 first 5, even money full game. you may even get better numbers now that he is in the lineup, where last night it looked like there was a chance he might not be. So keep an eye on that line movement. Make it a better price now.
Yeah, as of right now, first 5 is at minus 115 for both squads, and then plus 100 for the A's full game. So Ohtani in for the Angels today. So like Sean said, keep an eye on that. As a reminder, those of you tuned in the chat, we see your picks already. If you're just tuning in, though, we have a contest for all of you watching in the chat. Simply choose one player today that will homer, and the first person to correctly pick a dinger will win $50, courtesy of Action Network. Only one guess per person, please. So don't have to spam the chat. All good. And again, if you have questions about today's slate, feel free to ask, and we will try to get to as many as possible. One of the other things we said off the top of the show we want to discuss over at Citi Field today, Braves-Mets, 1 of 5 this weekend in Queens between the two teams. Mets lead this division by 3.5 games over the Braves. What is our lean for what should be a great showdown here, Zerillo?
I like the over in this matchup. Projected the sides as minus 106 for the Mets, minus 110 full game. So no value on either side of the money line. But as far as the total goes, I projected it closer to 8.5. Good hitting weather at Citi Field today. Typically a park that plays some percentage points below league average. Today, it should play a couple of percentage points above league average in terms of a run scoring environment. The weather boosts this game about 6% better than an average day at Citi Field. So normally I would project this total closer to 8. With the wind and the weather blowing out 15 miles an hour to left field, would project it closer to 8.5. So you could bet the 8 up to minus 114. Would not go past that number, though.
Okay, how about you, Anthony? What do you have for us for Mets Braves?
Yeah, so I bet Atlanta at plus 105, and I like them at anything plus money. Let's go across the team here, right? Atlanta's got the slightly better bullpen first in strikeout minus walk rate. So once we get past Wright and Carrasco, I think I have the better bullpen. Mets are third, so they're not that much worse, but I do project them better. The Braves have the better lineup against right-handed bats. So another reason to say, hey, Atlanta's a better team. And I think they have the better starter in this game. Wright, his numbers are pretty comparable to Carrasco when you look at the underlying numbers. 3.38 xFIP, 3.36 FIP, 3.9 xERA. Carrasco's 3.52, 3.4. So they're right around the same, maybe a smidge better for Wright. But I do project Wright better going forward too. Much better stuff, better strikeout rate. And so all that makes me believe that I have the better starter, the better bullpen, and the better lineup, and I get them at plus money. Give me the Braves.
And the better defense.
Better defense.
And the better defense.
Mets have won 8 of their last 10. They've been very good at home. And the Braves have been solid, above 500 on the road at 26-20. Okay. Looking forward to a big weekend for the Braves to make up some ground here on the Mets.
Huge weekend for the division.
Big time. This is where you can create the separation, or we're in for a race the rest of the way. Thank you for all of you for joining us. Again, download the Action Network app. We talked about, you can get those money percentages on who the public's playing, what the public might be against, et cetera, and also those player props. So on the pro account. So we encourage that. The rest of the picks for both Anthony and Sean are logged in the app. They tell you even where to bet it to in terms of a price. So all really good stuff there. Before we go, let's go around the diamond. One more pick from each of the guys. Give it to us in just a couple sentences or less, fellas, and amount of time it takes to turn 2. So we'll go to Zerillo and then Dabbundo.
With Anthony on the Guardians, that was his best bet for today. I'll just give out another data point because he said that Verlander has overachieved this season. The Guardians are the best team in baseball against right-handed pitching at avoiding the strikeout. 17.7%, 2% better than any other team. They're going to be able to rack up Verlander's pitch count and get into that Houston bullpen. Once this game gets to the bullpens, it's basically a coin flip. So grind Verlander down, rack up his pitch count, avoid the strikeout, make his day hell.
Okay, go ahead, Anthony.
Phillies, Nationals, under 9. We also have some more breaking news. Phillies releasing Didi Gregorius. Pretty exciting for Phillies fans everywhere because they're now going to have a plus defender at shortstop. Gene Segura is back tonight, a plus defender at second base. And with the addition of Brandon Marsh, a plus defender in center field. The biggest Achilles heel for the Phillies this year has been the defense. That will be improved tonight against the Nationals minor league lineup. And look, Syndergaard is not what he used to be, and I understand that, and there is probably some regression coming in his numbers. But I like the fact that he has 4 pitches that he can use to keep hitters off balance. And Espino is a guy that I've continued to bet on as a big underdog. I don't hate a look as a plus 200, but I love the under here. I do think this will be a tight game. And if the Phillies are leading, which they're likely to be, there will not be a bottom of the ninth. Always good to have an under when you have a big home favorite. So I like the under 9.
And Syndergaard pitching to contact more this year too. So upgrading the defense behind him is definitely a big key.
Show everyone what you got on that shirt there, Anthony? Is it
Under 9. Yeah. Look, bye, Didi.
Well, he noticed Zerillo how he worked in I would give it a look at plus 200, but it didn't sound, not a lot of conviction there. He just kind of
look. I just have to figure out how we're going to bet them. I mean, we talked about this before the show, right, Sean? Like the Nationals are going to be incredibly over or undervalued every single game.
Yes.
At this point with this lineup that they're rolling out there.
Yeah. Who wants to bet the
how many
Nationals
games are they actually going to win?
So.
Right.
Yeah. Not many. Okay. Dogs are barking. The picks
I bet
are
against
in.
the Phillies a decent amount.
We're talking dogs too. I mean, the Nats, we're talking Guardians, so it's good. All right. And the Giants too. Very good. That is going to do it for us. Thank you all so much for hopping in the chat there and interacting with us. And your questions are much appreciated, and also your feedback on the show. We certainly appreciate you all hanging out. Best of luck with your picks today. Again, if you get the home run pick in there, we got it. We're writing it down, and good luck to you on that. Good luck with your picks. For Sean Zerillo, Anthony Dabbundo, Brendan Glasheen, we will join you again next week for Payoff Pitch on